Audiobook creators are breaking new ground every day. From Galaxy's Edge and Aethon books signing Hollywood stars as narrators, to authors getting whole casts of actors to dramatize their works, new releases are excelling. How can you jump on board this train? This is The Writer's Journey. I'm your host, Lauren Moore, and with me is the sensational Kayleen Williams. We're two authors on a journey to learn more with you, the audience, so thank you for joining us. Tonight's guest is a veteran of the publishing industry, having worked at Random House and Alfred A. Knopf as publicist and subsidiary rights agent. She got her first taste of entrepreneurship in publishing as founder of the Random House Speakers Bureau and joined Podium Audio in 2017. As head of acquisitions and author relations at Podium, she has been welcoming authors to the family ever since. Victoria Gerken, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you.
We're so happy you're here.
Welcome. Yeah, it's great to meet you guys, you ladies.
I met you in Vegas, and I keep on hearing about you from your friends, different authors who have worked with you, and they're like, Victoria's the best. You have to have her on the show.
Maybe read.
Finally, we've had you here. It seems like audiobooks are getting bigger all the time. And 2020, with COVID, a lot of people are listening, and the new releases just getting more and more exciting. And I hear that you're part of the reason why this is happening.
I know, it's the funnest part of the book business, I have to say. I mean, I've been working in publishing and adjacent to publishing for, I guess, nearly 20 years. But this corner of it, this indie corner is by far the most exciting place that I have worked. I love Podium. Actually, my boss the other day accused me of drinking the Kool-Aid, which I say is delicious. The Podium Kool-Aid is absolutely scrumptious. So yes, and audiobooks, sales have grown double-digit year over year. I think the last 5 years, certainly that I've actually been working at Podium since 2016. Been paying attention to the numbers. It's been like 20% year over year growth in sales. I think the last numbers were like, it's $1 billion in revenue in the US. And it's not slowing down. I mean, the book market itself is bigger, books in general, and so the audiobook part of it is definitely smaller, but it's certainly the bit that's growing fastest. I think that has a lot to do with our, devices, right? That you can have.
I mean, it's exploding. You can do dishes and enjoy a book.
Exactly. Yeah. And I guess you mentioned COVID obviously has changed so many people's lives. Certainly, what in just a functional way. What we heard in the beginning was that it definitely impacted when people listen. Our partners at Audible told us that listening patterns changed. They obviously know when people are listening, and commuting obviously kind of went away. But then people were listening at different times of the day and for different periods of time. And so the actual, sales, certainly from our experience, have not been impacted by the pandemic. So it's changed. We were all working remotely. We do have an office in LA where we have a core team of about 6 people. So they were then working remote, but the rest of the Podium team, we're used to working from home, and all our narrators, some of them do go into studios, and so they were impacted because studios shut down in LA and London. But then we helped them set up home studios, and got some of the narrators who hadn't yet set up home studios. We helped them get themselves able
honestly to work. Is amazing, because man, home studios are no joke, y'all. There's so incredibly much that goes into it. Mine's like your backyard, shaggy homeless dude's home studio, but it does the job. So, but I'm just gonna say that's awesome on you guys, making sure that these audiobooks can still be made to the quality that they deserve to be.
Yeah, and there's a lot of technical solutions for this. I mean, some of our home narrators have like, you know, the TARDIS. They've got like, you know,
those things are
in a room, the thing weighs like 2,000 pounds. But then there are, you know, there are other sort of ways that you can make a room work. But yeah, you can't be living in the East Village or where there's trucks backing up or where somebody's got their leaf blower going. You know,
late night mowers. I'm just like, why? You've had all day.
We're going to get into more of how 2020 and the quarantine situation has changed audiobook and where also you think it's going in the future. But just for our audience who has never heard of Podium Audio, what is Podium? What are you about? And how did you get connected with them?
Okay, so Podium can be found at podiumaudio.com. If you'd like to check out our website. We actually have an email letter sign up. So when you go on our website, a thing pops up and it says you can sign up for our email letter. So I would encourage everybody who wants to know about great audiobooks to do that. We were founded 2012 by two Canadian gentlemen called Greg and James. And the first fiction audiobook that they published was The Martian, which was independently published at the time. And, you know, it really set the model for what Podium is, and also just proved, you know, what the potential is with independently published novels. And they'd done probably about a dozen nonfiction books. And then The Martian, Greg, you know, found it on Amazon. Andy had been writing it on his website and wanted to, you know, people were like, I want to read this on my Kindle, put it up on Amazon. So he like put it on Amazon for 99 cents. And that's where Greg found it and made a deal for the audio rights, cast R.C. Bray on it, who did a fantastic performance. And kind of the rest, our journey was then set. Like science fiction and fantasy are our core genres. We are a genre publisher, mainly publishing indie authors. We also do. No,
I didn't realize you were a genre publisher, so I just learned something new. Sorry, continue.
In the way that, you know, we have a specialty in those genres. I also like to say that we're commercial. Like we are really publishing very commercial fiction that people really want. It's a great business to be in. But we also have romance. We still do some nonfiction where there's a really great hook to get, where we know that, you know, people are going to be really interested in the story. We've got a super memoir by Manon Matthews coming out. She's an Instagram comedian. She's amazing. She's so hilarious. And so she's written a memoir and she's recording the audiobook that we will publish in a couple of weeks or maybe next month. So yeah, and we're branching out into mystery and thriller. Basically where indies are going, we are going right there with you.
Taking the trek with us, man. Love it.
Lots of really interesting sub genres that you guys discover and make and find an audience, and we make an awesome audio edition and find the audio fans for that story. So we're now there are about 20 podiumites, and we have narrators that we work with everywhere. And we have editors and producers and proofers, you know, on the team. We will publish about 520 audiobooks this year. So grown from, you know, 300 and something last year to 520 this year. So we're on a growth path as well.
So you're finding those authors with an excellent story to tell, and then you're pairing them with the right narrator to make it happen. Mm-hmm. And this year, I've seen some really interesting new releases with the audio narrators you're finding. What are some of those exciting releases that you guys are working on that you can share with us?
So yeah, I mean, this is another COVID comment. We saw in March, when movies and Hollywood kind of shut down, we recognized that there were probably going to be some fairly famous actors who might be interested in narrating an audiobook or two. And these deals take a long time to put together. Our head of marketing spearheaded the project, Maggie Silva, and worked the Hollywood agency connections that she has, and obviously in hand with our casting director, we cast Giancarlo Esposito and Eric Dane on Richard Fox's Hell's Horizon. Richard and Jonathan Brzee, Hell's Horizon, which just came out on Tuesday. That it's like a two-hand. I think you had him on the show talking about it. So
we did a deep talk on it, and I can't wait.
It's really cool. It is cool. And then on the 27th, we have Nathan Fillion, who is everybody's crush, on the Salvage Crew. And I actually prepared to say the author's name by listening to Nathan Fillion say the author's name in the introduction. I'm not going to get it right. I'm not going to say it. Udunjaya Wijeretne. There you go. There you go. Nathan got it right too. So we have those two, and then we have some other things in the pipe. So I encourage you to follow us on our Instagram, Podium Audio, @Podium Audio, on our Facebook page, or on our newsletter, and you will find out what else we have coming, because we do have some other very cool celebrity narrated audiobooks.
Yeah.
So we are.
If you're listening on audio later, Victoria is positively glowing right now because she knows the secrets that we don't know.
Yeah.
Just wait and see and find out what they are.
Bursting at the seams, and I'm like, maybe we could find out super secretly. Then we could glow and just be like, well, we know things.
Her eyes are saying, but her lips are sealed.
You know what's funny? I had the chat on private chat and not comments, so I haven't seen any of these comments. I figured nobody was here. I thought it was just the three of us.
We've got 13, it's saying, so far. There's people watching.
Yeah, we have. Well, and the narrators are celebs. The narrators that we cast generally, are greatly sought after by audiobook fans, right? It's like a different kind of fandom for audiobook fans. So somebody who loves audiobooks is going to be fangirling over R.C. Bray, whereas somebody who has never listened to an audiobook in their life will have no idea what they're talking about. So it's just such an interesting kind of dichotomy. But what casting celebrities also does for our authors is it just opens up the press, interest. So, it's a publicity play as well. So we can get the attention of Sci-Fi Wire or just out there in the ether. Audiobooks don't get coverage, really. I mean, they really don't. The book gets coverage, right? But the audiobook...
The format has this grand opportunity to reach, areas and links that, just the book and the digital format really can't, because you can bring in these voices and these faces that just, it's a whole new realm of acting and entertainment.
Yeah. So. Yeah. Well, and hopefully, we've shown some actors who haven't done a lot of audiobooks. I actually don't think Nathan Fillion has done a single audiobook. I think
it's his first.
This is his first, and also it's one of his first times back into science fiction. We've missed him since he was on Firefly. He's done Castle, he's done Rookie, but we want him back in science fiction, and you guys made it happen.
Well, I think we had a really good time. Actually, if you listen to it's not out yet. I have obviously listened to the intro because I was trying to learn Yuda's name. He has a lot of fun with it. Like, he's having fun, and it's a fun story, and there's some comedy, and I think I'm really excited to see what the response to it is when it gets out there. October 27th. Pre-order, available for pre-order on Audible right now. So I saw somebody had a question about Audible Premium Plus.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yes. Stephen Manley, Papa Chuck, he says, when you get to it, ask her what her opinion of how Audible's Premium Plus program impacts authors and narrators.
Well, it's definitely early days. It launched, what, a month ago, maybe, just into Audible membership. So if you're an Audible member, it's an add-on. You know, I think streaming and all you can eat is what consumers want. And so Audible, I think, is responding to what people want by building that tier. In terms of what it means financially, you know, I don't know. I mean, we'll see. But what we've heard, and we are not in it yet, but we are going to be participating in it, and it'll be really interesting for our authors, because we're hoping that we can use it to lead people into the series, you know, by making maybe the first or second book in the series available in the tier, and then having people then go and buy the paid product from like book 3, for example. So we see that as an opportunity, especially for older series that, you know, may not be selling quite what they were when they first launched. You know, it's a really good way of getting new listeners in. I mean, it's expansion. It's a way to expand the type of listener who wants to consume in that kind of model. So I feel pretty excited about it. I'm looking forward to seeing what our authors think about it as well. I have, you know, downloaded a few things for free, kind of for free. It's not free because you're paying $14.95 a month, but it feels free. And I've enjoyed a lot of the content. So I think there's a ton of Audible original content there, and I know Blackstone is in it. So yeah, no, I think it's just going to expand the audience.
Yeah.
So what the Audible's Premium Plus program, it's allowing listeners access to certain titles that they can choose through. And then if they listen, how much does Podium or the author, the narrator, get paid for a listen?
Well, it's on, as my understanding of it is on a per listen. Well, there's two different ways of payment. I'm not sure what our plan it will be, but I think it's mainly a buyout. So for a period of time, the audiobooks will be available in this tier, and there'll be a flat fee, and that will be what the author gets. The other ways of this is like the escape program that Audible has had for ages. That's the romance program, which is like, I think $7.95 a month. And I think those authors were paid on minutes listened. So depending on how much was listened, that's what they get paid for.
You know, that makes a lot of sense, because it's like the audiobook version of the ebook. You know, we're paid, you know, the KNEP, you know, per page read, and you know, how do you split an audiobook, you know, per minute then? So that I mean, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I mean, that's the Spotify model for music as well. So it's just it's an evolving market, and certainly the way people want to get their content has to evolve. I think people will be still buying audiobooks, but it's changed so much. Like, you just think about the last 5 years, the fact that Audible has, you know, you can now buy audiobooks through the app. I mean, that's only been in the last year, so that's new and good. I know, mind blowing.
Papa Chuck says minutes listened is the explanation I got. And also, he received about 500 reviews on one of his books since it launched.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So
that's people listening. That's new listeners. And will they? I mean, I hope that whatever it is, whoever's listening to that will have discovered him because it's a low barrier to entry. And then we'll listen more, and that's the goal. More listens.
Yeah. All right, so that's something new that's coming out for authors and something for us to think about. What else are you seeing changes in the audiobook industry this year? Perhaps as a result of quarantine, changing things?
I mean, it's not all that different, just more content, busier narrators, more competition, definitely more competition for popular narrators. It's, harder to get scheduled. Other than that, I mean, we didn't have any functional slowdowns. I think indies probably benefited from the traditional publishers shoving their spring and summer books back. But I think the fall is going to be very crowded with all the books that didn't get published over the summer. But I still feel like in our core genres, we're still not really, we don't have a lot of competition from traditional publishers. So I'm not, for us, for Podium, I'm not concerned about that at all for our authors.
Now, why is that? I would think that traditional publishing would have like giant backlists of books that they could just start making into audiobooks and just shoving into Audible, and then indies would get swamped out. So why isn't
it's just the different way that they publish. So when they're pushing a book, they also push the audiobook out. So when they're delaying, everything gets delayed. Whereas we are usually separate from the book publication. So because an indie author can finish a book on Tuesday and publish it on Wednesday, and we need about 8 to 10 weeks of production time to get the text and then get it to market. But a lot of authors want to start getting that ebook income quicker and don't want to wait, and we're not going to hold an author back from doing that. And we also see that the audio market is really separate and different, and it's annoying sometimes for authors when the fans are like, where's the audiobook? And we will try to have a pre-order up early, like get the pre-order up so that the author isn't driven insane by those questions. And also we can get pre-orders. There's a benefit to us. Yeah. But yeah, so it's, I think because they pushed everything, it's like the audiobooks went along with it. So, but yeah, everything, very few books that are published by traditional publishers won't have an audio edition at this point. I think trad publishers are seeing the opportunity, and they are part of the volume growth. Because back when I sold subsidiary rights back in 2005, and part of my job was to take the audio rights that Random House didn't want to publish themselves and sell them to publishers, to audio publishers like Tantor and Blackstone, and there were a bunch of them, that Highbridge, all sorts. So that was my job, and there were a whole bunch of rights that I had to sell because Random House didn't want to do them. They picked the pick of the litter, and then all sort of the rest, which was a lot, went out. Whereas now hardly anything gets sold out of house because it's so lucrative, because sales are so lucrative in audio.
So I really like to hear that the indie's ability to be so flexible, and we can hit ebook publication. We're still held up on the paperback. That's okay. We're going to hit it when we hit it. We've got audiobook rolling. It's going to come out when it comes out. I really like to hear that the indie's flexibility to be able to do that can actually be, a boon to what we do in our sales and our income. So
yeah, I mean, we've definitely done some looking at what impacts simultaneous publication has on sales. We don't have enough data yet to say one way or the other, like, this is the way to go. You know, this is X number of sales. You're going to get more if you wait. I mean, there's schools of thought. I, for the longest time, was convinced that it makes no difference to be staggered. And in some cases, I do think that. But there definitely are cases that we have studied that it does make a beneficial impact to go SimPub. But then there are other examples where it doesn't. And it's interesting because the ebook almost builds awareness for the audio, and it acts as an advertisement, which is free.
Springboard tool.
Yeah, springboard for sure. So if you go out on the same day, you miss that tail. So I don't know. I'm the jury is still out in my mind.
It's definitely something to think about, especially like per genre. You know, is it stronger for the sci-fi fantasies? You know, is it stronger in the romance? You know, how does that play into it? And speaking of, you know, famous people, your A-lister stars, capturing them in, reading these books, getting out this audio through our lovely time of the year 2020, we have a spotlight. I'm just going to segue just like that. Boom! It's happening. All right. Today's spotlight is on Hell's Horizon by Richard Fox and Jonathan Brazee. A war with no end. A vendetta that will destroy two commanders. The war between the Alliance and the Hegemony has spanned countless stars and shed untold blood on 100 worlds. For two commanders, Alliance Captain Alcazar and Major Richer of the Hegemony, the war has spiraled into a personal feud. Both lead fierce Marines and mechanized soldiers into battle against the other on the green hell of the planet. Whoa, probably should have practiced this before. Ayutthaya.
Ayutthaya, I think.
Ayutthaya. Thank you, Victoria. Ayutthaya.
We're the publisher.
I'm gonna read the sentence over. Both lead fierce Marines and mechanized soldiers into battle against the other on the green hell of the planet, Ayutthaya. And each new fallen warrior only deepens the bitterness and hatred between the two. But as the conflict rages, the two warriors realize they have more in common than they dare to admit, and their own codes of honor may be what can bring the bloodshed to an end, if they don't kill each other first. U.S. Army and Marine Corps veterans Richard Fox and Jonathan Brazee write the grueling head-to-head action in this military science fiction war novel. Each is a Nebula Award and Dragon Award finalist, with Richard winning the Dragon Award for Best Military Science Fiction Novel. Their wartime experiences and years as officers in the United States military creates a novel that no one else could write, and a story that takes you deep into the darkest moments of war. For Doom, because we always have Doom. Get your copy today. Link dropped in the chat.
Nice. Thank you. It's funny. Hell's Horizon was a book that Richard talked to me about in Vegas last year at 20 Books, which is unfortunately where we won't be this year. Yes. And he was pitching me. Well, he wasn't pitching me. We were just having a drink at the bar, and he was telling me about this story that he and Jonathan had cooked up. And I just thought it just sounded like the greatest idea, especially with the backgrounds. You know, we do publish, several, well, I don't know, maybe half a dozen or 10 former military veterans. And they just bring such authenticity to these sci-fi crazy planet worlds where they make up names.
These names, man. I just want y'all to know. Okay, Ayutthaya. I'm already pronouncing it wrong. Ayutthaya.
I just hope Giancarlo and Eric Dane got it right. I have read this book, but I have not listened to the audiobook yet. I see a question here from, Claire's wishing me cheers with it's water, Claire. It's water.
Water is delicious. It gives us lifeblood.
Stephen's asking about any new marketing channels. It's interesting. We do actually, when we sign up a new author, we do send out some marketing best practices. And it's not anything that nobody will know, but like some people just have more expertise than others. And like our number one suggestion really is to focus on one way of communicating with your fans, because you can't, some people get spread so thin. It's hard to do Instagram and Twitter and Facebook and your newsletter and and get them all
website
and the website
ads. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So it's we certainly focused on Facebook, but we are growing our Instagram channel, but we have a team of people. Like we have professionals who
spread the crazy out.
Yeah, and so for our authors, I feel like it's really kind of good to take a step back and think about how you can be most authentic with your fans, and connect like through one way. Of course, email marketing is great because you actually own your list. The problem with Facebook is they own the data. You don't own the data. So growing an email list is, that's going to be gold. And, even if you have 800 people on your list, if there are 800 people who really sort you out and love to hear from you and want to buy your new book, I mean, that's awesome. It's amazing. I love it. Thank you. Yes, we have been using a lot of animated ads, and that's another thing we found. Animations get more clicks. People definitely pay more attention to a moving image, and we put some sound behind it. Sometimes it's just music, or sometimes it's a sample of the audiobook or something kind of peppy. We'll do some bloopers. Fans love the bloopers.
Oh, bloopers are fun.
Actually, we have a great audiobook series, Noobtown, The Mayor of Noobtown. It's a guy called Ryan Rimmel. It's a lit RPG series, and he is now, I think we're up to book 4, and his mojo with our narrator has got to a point where he wrote like 2 pages of tongue twisters in the middle of the book. And Jonathan McLean is the narrator, and he was like, "You be." I don't know if I can swear on this. Yeah, and he did. He performed it, but he also did a blooper reel. So that's going to be really fun. That's coming out next month. But
I can imagine.
It's fun seeing these kind of collaborations that build up between the author and a narrator as the sort of the story goes on in a series, which you just don't get with standalone. It's like, one and done. But it's definitely, there's opportunity, I think, for authors to play off the narrator's performance. And I think authors often get the most out of their narrator if they can kind of let off the reins a bit. There are some authors who just want everything said exactly the way that they had imagined, and that's absolutely valid, and they're completely, it's their work, it's their creation. But there's also a lot of value in letting a performer do their thing. And
I completely agree, because the way an author wrote it, or the way each individual reader may read it, I mean, there could be 10,000 different ways to read that one sentence, but when you put it all together into this performance, into the ups and the downs and the valleys and the, all the things, really allowing that narrator to do their craft, with your words you could see a shine to it that you never even knew existed.
Yeah,
there's some authors who write for a narrator. They've got
I was thinking that too.
And they've got that person's voice in their head, and when they're writing their book, they're actually kind of like hearing that person and making their character come out in the words that they choose. It can get them through writer's block because they've got that voice in their head.
Right. A lot of our authors will, when they're going to write the next book, will go and use the audiobooks, to remind themselves and kind of get into the mode of writing the next book. And Anyway, I got completely off marketing. But anyway, but actually it doesn't. It is related to marketing, because I think, the narrator selection, casting of the narrator is so important. I would say of everything we do at Podium, casting is like one of our core values. Like we are really good at casting.
Speaking of casting, see Stephen Manley, he's on fire with these questions tonight.
What's he got?
All for these questions. Once Podium signs an author, how much input does that author have in narrator choice, if any? So
we listen to our authors always. We have a conversation. If we're interested in working with an author, or an author comes to us, we have a live conversation, actual like telephone call or whatever, Zoom. And in that call, it's my job and it's my colleague's job to get from the author what they think, like who have they imagined, if they have a dream casting, who that is, and take that information. Sometimes it's a choice that we can honor, and it'll go to our casting director. Like it always goes to the casting director. So we'll go with the text and the author's thoughts and say, what do you think? Is this a match? Is it going to work? And sometimes it is, and sometimes it's like, maybe not. And then we'll go back to the author and say, well, here's why not. And it's if an author comes to us and it's like, it's got to be, Tim Gerard Reynolds, anyone. It's got to be, that's who it's got to be, or I'm not doing a deal with you. If we don't think that's the right choice, then we won't do the deal. Like, I'm not interested in taking on an author's work and then disappointing them. Like, we are not in the disappointment business at all. That is bad. So, but what we ask our authors is to trust us and look at our track record and acknowledge that they may not be a casting director. Would they cast their own movie? Like, maybe they would. Maybe they're very good at casting. But unless they've listened to the number of audiobooks that our casting director has and, really knows the landscape, then we always ask that they just let us go through the process. Because in the end, what the author wants as a listener is not necessarily what the market wants. And it's it is a very fraught conversation. I'd say narrator casting and cover art are like the two
I was just gonna say
moments of strife.
As an indie author, just the way you're describing it, take that narrator. I just lost the word for it. Picking a narrator. Just like you need to trust your cover art artists to create what the market is currently looking for in the things that you have going on with your story, to convey those to get clicks, right? You need to be able to convey that voice to get listens. And, you
get great reviews. I mean, that's what we're going for too. We want really great ratings. There's marketing again. It always comes back to marketing, but we want awesome reviews, great ratings, and that may be the author's first choice of narrator, or it may not be. So I guess the long answer to a short question, but sometimes
more information is better than none. I mean, at the end of the day, yes, the author does get an opportunity to be like, hey, I love XYZ. What do you think? But and then as the author, we need to really sit back and be like, okay, there are people who literally do this for a living. That's what they do. They cast voices for stories. And we have to trust that they're going to pick the right one for us.
Yeah, we also, we have a process where we solicit character notes from our authors. So, because a lot of our authors don't listen to audiobooks. It's so amazing. I have, tons, less now. I used to do these conversations all the time, but now I have colleagues and I don't do as many of them as I used to. But my first question is, do you listen to audiobooks? Like, are you an audiobook person? And it doesn't come from a place of judgment. I just want to know where an author's head is. And so many times the answer is no. I read. I'm a reader. Because you're a writer, you're a reader, and it's like I don't have time to listen to it. I don't even listen to my own audiobooks. A lot of people say, so yeah.
That might end up being me. I mean, I would try and make time for it, but man, I'm already running through things. We have a weird sideline question. I was going to answer it in the chat.
Can I ask a question real quick first?
Oh yeah, no, I'm sorry.
Before we get off to a new topic, do you have any examples of authors that the narrator made a big difference in their exposure or in their career? An author who was not previously known, but then the right narrator came along, was paired with their book, and it changed everything. Can you think of any examples like that?
I mean, I would say The Martian. I don't know. No, that was actually discovered as a book too. I mean, we have a lot of our breakout of our successes. I mean, Terry Mancor with Spellmonger. I mean, he was successful in book form, but the audiobooks have just reached, he's like doubled his audience. You know, he says he goes to fan cons, and you know, half the people who come up to him are audiobook people. They've come to him because of the audiobooks. You know, we published A Gift of Time. A guy called Jerry Merritt is the author. I mean, this book had 70 reviews on Amazon and not a very good cover. Even he would admit, I'm not telling tales out of school here, but the cover was, I get excited when I see really bad covers because I know it's going to be a great book. And we put a new cover on it, and you know, the audiobook just has sold for years, and it's got, I don't know, 6,000 ratings on Audible. It's just like, it is timeless. And whether or not a movie gets made, I don't know whether it will be optioned or what, but it's just, it has taken something that maybe a few thousand people had experienced, and now tens of thousands of people have listened to the story. So like, as far as like, if you're asking, well, has anybody made a movie or that sort of thing, we haven't had a breakout like The Martian, since The Martian, but there's been plenty of success. And I think always what we're doing is additive to the author's ebook activity. Like, it's not the same crowd. It's definitely a different crowd. And, you know, and some authors will, you know, go trad, you know, get a deal with Tor, and then they'll come back. Miss us. But so it depends how you measure success, I guess. But yeah, we've sold a lot of audiobooks for authors.
I mean, it makes sense to me, right? You know, you have your hard copy readers, and then like me, when I was very first publishing, however long ago, I made my hardcover, and it took me 2 years to do an ebook, right? Because I am not a digital reader. I read physical stuff.
Who wants that? Who wants a Kindle?
Right? You know, it's like, no, I mean, that's not a thing, right? You know, but it's you need to hit all those different niches, because there's, like you said, tens of thousands of people in each one, and there's such an easy opportunity to reach them all, and just, you know, sit on your podium of awasomeness and be like, yes, read mine, listen to my words.
So I think Rick Partlow just asked about my dog painting.
That was the random thing I was going to mention.
And guess what? And Julie Constantine, who is my colleague, who sends out she does lots, but one of the things she does is send out the contracts. She painted it.
Oh,
painted that thing. I know. She's amazing. She's amazing. I knitted her a hat. She painted me a picture, and I knitted her a hat. This is it.
That's adorable.
She can wear your art.
That's right. Yes, so, it's my dog. That's my dog.
So you answered the random thing I wanted to interject. So
okay.
Satisfied. We can continue.
All right. So I'm just checking over my 2020 notes. You're saying that sales are looking good. They're looking better than ever. We've got a lot of exciting projects coming out, more coming. I did have someone mention, you know, with people quarantined and not doing their commutes, that this person expected the audiobook sales to drop because the listeners would go do other things with their time. They're at home. They don't have that commute anymore. But you're not seeing that.
Yeah, we're not seeing that. I mean, we definitely heard from Audible that, the commute listening time was different, but for our books, I mean, people still need to chill out, and actually more chilling out would be better. Like, everyone needs to chill out extra, and an audiobook is a perfect way to do that. And I think, and you've got your kids at home, you just want to put your earbuds in and not listen to it. And while they do Fortnite, you can listen to your audiobook. And I think, people are actually I read somewhere, or maybe you guys were talking about it on the podcast, but book sales have gone up dramatically, because people are just fed up with everything that's on Netflix now. There's nothing new.
Binge to the nth degree.
Yeah. So I think, people still got to work in warehouses, and people listen to audiobooks when they're doing that, and people still have to drive lorries long distances, and just because
truck drivers.
Yay for truck drivers. Exactly. That's another thing, Terry. We read some of the comments on fan pages, and there are a lot of lorry drivers who are audiobook fans. So we've been trying to figure out how to reach them more directly.
Man, if I could figure out a way to, like, when I'm in house cleaning mode, to hook, like, the Kindle thingy, I mean, it's giant, right, to my person and walk around the house cleaning as I'm listening to audiobooks, man, I'd be consuming them things all day long.
Well, you just put your Bluetooth in, you get a fanny pack, bum bag, as we English call them.
And I need a bum bag.
Get your bum bag.
I need to get a bum bag. I love that. That's on my Christmas list.
Don spelled in a tube of chapstick.
Right. I'm sorry, Lauren. I totally got you off.
Yeah. Papa Chuck says, I think people are fed up with reality.
I totally agree. I think fantasy, the business we're in, we, Podium, and a lot of you writers here, you're in the perfect storytelling bit of the world, fantasy. Yeah.
And people, I think they want to do something productive. I always feel like when I'm binge watching Netflix, like I've lost my time, like I've wasted my time. But if I've got a book in my hand, or if I'm listening to a book, I feel like I'm expanding my mind. Like,
or
I could be exercising while I listen to the book. Going on.
Great courses and masterclasses. Masterclass is doing really well, and that's just like a 2 hour, or actually, is it 2 hours? Like, some of them are 2 hours. But they have famous people sharing their
the hardest 5 years I can
read. Like people are wanting to get information and learn new things and do it through audio while they jog or multitask, or sometimes do nothing. Like, there's some stats in the APAC, the Audio Publishers Association, the industry group that we belong to. They have surveys they send out, and it was such an interesting statistic that like 20% of people who are listening to audiobooks are doing nothing else. Nothing, just sitting. That's really
I'm going to enjoy this book and stare at this wall.
Yeah. And pay attention. And that way you can maybe remember what happened in the last chapter, because that is a bit of an issue that I have with audiobooks. I gotta go back.
Yeah. Mine is definitely, I can't do the two things at once. If I am holding one conversation, please stop. Can't do the two. So if I'm listening to an audiobook, my daughter's like, I'm gonna miss something in one.
Not happening.
Yeah.
Okay. Here's a completely different question. I've had a number of authors tell me that if you're going to produce an audiobook, you want the book itself to be at least 100,000 words.
Mm-hmm.
Because when listeners are out there and they're choosing which book to pick, they want to pick longer books with more hours. So they're saying it's not even worth it if your book is not long enough. Now, is that true? Have you seen that hold true in the sales figures? Or
Well, it's interesting because this is actually something that the Audible Plus program combats. Because this, when you talk about does a 100,000 word book work, or is it better, or you're always talking about Audible. Like that is the Audible credit model that has, given this weight to length, and that length of listening is what connotes value. And so I think the really great thing about the Audible Plus program that I didn't remember to say earlier is it gives an opportunity for shorter content, because people do still want to listen to, 40,000 word books, but when they're making that purchasing decision, it's really hard for them to actually make that decision. So I think Audible Plus is a great opportunity for shorter content, and maybe will sort of interrupt this length, like it's like an arms race. And so, but yeah, I mean, it is undeniable a longer, especially it's genre specific. So let's talk about epic fantasy. Like epic fantasy, if it's less than 15 hours, which is 130,000 words, forget about it. I mean, it is not, a single book is just not gonna move unless it's, I don't know, Brandon Sanderson, except he writes
the next greatest thing to hit.
Yeah, like he writes, he writes 50-hour books that are 50 hours, but that's the point. You want to be competing. You've got to be competing with the bestsellers in the genre. And when you look at the bestseller list, it's in epic fantasy. It's George Martin and Sanderson and like all these mega, because that's epic fantasy. Epic means it's big.
Super long.
Yeah. So when you see, but that doesn't really work on the ebook side, and for sort of the dynamic in the KU model where you want to have swifter releases. So you get, authors who are writing fantasy books that are on the 10-hour mark, so 90 to 100,000 words. And that's definitely a tougher competition. It's hard. So that's when we would do a trilogy bundle. Like, we just did the Keeper Chronicles, J.A. Andrews. And that's, what is it? It's like 30 hours, something like that.
But that's interesting. There's still options. The audio market is seeing, as far as what I'm assuming at this point, there's all these books that are hitting, below this mark of really long lengths, and there's money to be made in them because they're still great stories. People want to listen to them. So how can we make them available and break through that assumption that, I'm only going to spend my credit on the long ones because that's, I've earned this credit. I get one. I only get one this month. I want it to be a long one, right?
Well, what we do is we bundle. And then
you have that option of bundling,
or we do bonus things. Like an author will sometimes have a reader magnet, like a novella prequel type of situation. That's maybe 10,000 words. We all bundle that as a bonus. What about short story length and audio?
I threw that out there because you mentioned.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. It will, if you can use it, and actually, BookFunnel, I think, has a service.
It does. It's new.
Yeah, that you can use that sort of content for building your list. It might be worth the cost. It is expensive to produce an hour of audio. And so you've got to think about it. Like, you got to think, okay, what am I going to get for this? I'm going to spend $500 doing this. Am I going to get that benefit that I'm looking for? And so for us, we will, we will make that investment and we'll bundle it to make it, we can put bonus on the cover and we'll say it'll just be longer. So that's kind of a couple of the things that we do. But then sci-fi, like space opera, has a different requirement of length. And romance, you can get away with something that's way, 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 way shorter. A lot of romance is 60,000, something like that, and that works fine because that's what the competition is. Like that's
a
that's
lot of it really does come down to the genre. Like where are you hitting in that spectrum?
Yeah,
of storytelling.
What's the competition doing?
Interesting. Yeah, they are your competition, but you're all still getting the same credit, which is interesting for indie authors because usually we're looking at completely different price scales on ebooks. It might be $14.99 that's traditionally published, and then you're trying to sell your book for $2.99 or $3.99. But here we're all getting the same. We're all spending the same amount, one credit, and getting paid that.
Right. So you have to think how all the other ways that I'm going to make my book better, look better, and seem better to make somebody make a decision to buy it. I mean, that in the moment that you have their eyeballs looking at your thing or looking at a competitor's thing, which could be George Martin, it could be, anybody. That's the level of playing field that we're focused on with our audiobooks. It's the bestsellers in the genre that we want to put our authors on the podium with.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, we are asking people to spend $14.95 on a volume that in ebook was maybe 99 cents or $2.99. And so there's a bigger buying decision when you look at an audiobook, and it has to convey quality and that they're going to get a great value for $14.
I can see people buying both. I've got
ooh, there you go.
But I have this because I listened to the audiobook first. He's reading it and it's excellent. It was so good. I was like, I have to buy this for my friend. But I can see someone buying Yuta's book, paper copy or hard copy, and then getting the audiobook just to hear Nathan read it.
That's the goal.
Yeah. So
and WhisperSync, they can actually get the Kindle on WhisperSync and then add the audio for whatever it is, $7.49 probably.
Look at all these ways that we can get all the words in all the formats.
For one low price.
For one low
price. It's funny. That's a beautiful book, though. Wow, that's some nice foil on that.
Oh, this is hardcover. It's illustrated.
So nice. Is that a dust cover or is it actually embossed?
It's not. It just looks like it. But it's illustrated all the way through.
Oh, look at your video. Look how pretty. And book goals, everybody. For y'all listening on audio, you should probably check out the YouTube video because this is like, beauty for your eyeballs. Beauty for your eyeballs. Illustrated all the way through. Man, book goals.
Yeah. But this is something that even indie authors can do too. You just gotta, figure out, make the connections and figure out how. It's out there. The information's out there. Just like you guys are finding those connections by having an office in LA, you can send people to talk to the actors or to talk to their agents and to start putting together these deals that I'm seeing in the indie space and I have not seen yet outside of it. But this is very exciting for this world that we're in. Where do you see audiobooks going in the future?
World is our oyster. I mean, it really, I mean, there's so much that can be done with audio entertainment. I mean, there is what we can, sell, monetize and sell is kind of a different question. But, in terms of like dramatized podcasts and lightly produced audio that isn't quite as expensive as like a full audio drama. I mean, audio dramas are with effects and original music and that sort of thing. They are very, very expensive to produce. But that is definitely a format that people like. We're doing more duet narrations, meaning it's the male and the female actually speaking in the sentence, like the appropriate dialogue. I don't even know how to really describe it, but it's different from
the male voices on the female vocal cords. Hard. So yay.
And a lot of narrators I mean, we'll do single narration for the bulk of our books, and our narrators are great at conveying, different genders' voices, just characterizing them. But there are genres where, like harem, where the audience wants to hear the female bits done by the female narrators and the male bits done by the male narrators, and it has become really popular, and it's something that the audience wants, and so we are increasingly doing that. Not always, and not, it doesn't always work. Like sometimes it comes off as super choppy, but we're doing that. That's takes two people in a studio. It's a more complicated production, and versus kind of the traditional romance dual narration where you've got female doing female sections, chapters. It's like split up chapters, like points of view, usually in the first person. So that's a couple of certainly the duet stuff is pretty new for us. Shorter form content, I mean, that's going to be really interesting, especially with Audible Plus, like being able to do some shorter form work, serialized. Think about serialized content. Choose. I love
options.
Yeah, I know, a lot of options. I'd like to do like a kind of a choose your own adventure sort of thing, although I'm not sure we're allowed to call it that. But that sort of branch narrative, that's something that our founder Greg has been talking about for years. He would like to do that. So the technology hasn't quite caught up with us yet.
I know, I'm just thinking, I'm like, okay, a choose your own adventure audiobook. If y'all can get around that would be really fun.
I know, we
I'm gonna go here, and it's screaming and fire and dungeon. No, go back.
Yeah, that'd be perfect for like the game lit authors.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Keep thinking with it would be possible because you're holding the reader, so you could tap on a page and it could take you somewhere else. But I'm trying to imagine how that would work for audiobooks.
Yeah, it's a tricky technical problem to solve, but I'm sure it'll be solved.
Tiny little thing,
Yeah, it's an app. Someone's going to build an app. I was looking to see if there was more questions there. June.
We are a little over. I don't know how late you wanted to hang out with us, because I know we were talking earlier. Your dog is just totally thrown off with the whole routine of tonight.
She needs her pills.
I am looking at question number 9, and I'm sure that is something that majority of our listeners are probably wondering. If an author would like to approach an audiobook publisher like Podium, how should they go about that? Like how are they going to contact, what you like to see in that query letter puzzle thingy?
We have a form on our website, a submission form. We didn't used to take submissions, and I think Podium has a bit of a reputation for not taking submissions, but we have evolved, we have grown into a place, because taking submissions involves work, like a lot of work, and we just didn't have the bandwidth to do it. So we were very much like outward focused, like acquisitions, focusing on what, picking what we were going to acquire, what we wanted to acquire, and approaching authors. And we do that. We do that all the time, but we are open to submissions. Usually we're looking for sales track record in ebook. You don't have, preferably not having been in the audio market before, so that we can introduce you to the audio book market. It's actually better for us to have like a blank slate rather than kind of a trail of not great selling audiobooks. That's not awesome.
I just imagine a zombie trail of bad narration, and you're just like,
never get rid of, and it's there forever. Well, it's there for 7 years. Yeah, that can be that. I guess that would be one of my definite big cautions for authors in thinking about getting into audio, and thinking about self-publishing in audio through ACX or Find a Way or wherever. It's like it's it's expensive, and it's a different market. And if you get it wrong, and it can cost you a lot, and it's going to be there, you can't, especially through ACX, you can't get rid of it. So it's kind of, it's definitely something to think really, really hard about, and talk to your author colleagues about, making those decisions. I don't think it's something you need to rush into, even though there's a lot of pressure, like, it's where the money is, it's where the sales are. It's like, calm down. Just take a step, take a breath, and really look at the market, and prepare yourself, make sure you're prepared. And then maybe that is diving into it and taking advantage, but it's pretty easy to get it wrong. But anyway, not to be like a doom mistress, because I don't want to be that at all. I want to be encouraging. Doom.
Well, people need to know what the potholes are. And the two potholes I've heard are, one, getting into a contract that you later like to not be in, so that you can make a more lucrative contract and get to more.
Yeah, I would say being careful about royalty share. That's a tricky deal, because you are tied to that narrator really for the series. So if you think I want to get an audiobook out there, the narrator comes to you through ACX and like, it's me, I'm the best one for your audiobook, because they're trying to sell you on their talents, and you assess them and you say, wow, you are the best one, you are awesome, but you never listened to an audiobook in your life, and they're reading your words and you think it's awesome. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. If it doesn't sell, you really are, that's it. I mean, you've gone, you can't cancel the contract unless you can buy them out. So you could then pay that narrator for their time and try to cancel the contract that way. But it can, if you pay for service, if you're paying for per finished hour with a narrator, then you do have way more control over what happens in the future. So there is that. But anyway, you can contact me, and I'll try not to be the mistress of doom.
We love the doom around here. We want all the doom, and then we can more accurately wade through the doom and get to the sunshine.
Yeah, so we have a form on our website, and it asks various questions, like, it's amazing, actually. Some submissions we get, people don't even mention the title of the book. So let's just start there. Give us the title of the book, preferably an Amazon link to the title, and your website, and that's it. And we'll give it a look over and let you know what we think.
All right, y'all heard it here.
Yep.
With our Victoria Gerken from Podium of the audibleness of the things.
Mistress of Doom.
Yes,
right.
Victoria, the Mistress of Doom.
That wasn't really what I was going for tonight. I wasn't going for Mistress of Doom. I was going for like good representative of Podium. And I come out of it as Mistress of Doom.
In keystroke medium, that's what it equates to, man. Mistress of Doom, representative Podium. That's just how it goes here. All right. Oh my God. Thank you. So you've been so much fun. And I've really enjoyed chatting with you. I mean, it's like so many ideas, so many different ways that we can get our words out there, get our stories, our characters. Absolutely. And, forget Nathan Fillion, all the other, stars out there.
We got stuff.
Right. Y'all are reaching them. We really want to pick your brain and be like, tell us the secrets. We won't tell anybody. We promise. We promise we won't tell anybody. We'll just be like, we've got a secret, and we'll just do a little dance. This will be me and Lauren, just like, I don't know what you guys are talking about.
Giving you guys clues right now. I'm not going to do it.
Okay. Well, y'all heard it. She's not going to tell us secrets, so don't bother us. All right. Thank you, everybody in the live chat.
Yeah, thanks for coming. I see some familiar names there. Scott Moonwriter, Rick Potlow.
Yes, Scott. We've got, I know Josh was up in there. Papa Chuck, of course. We've got Claire Vaccaro, the
Leo.
Who?
Leo? It's Leo. Yeah.
Oh, well, hello, Leo, with your random name. You always have a different name.
Huge fan of Victoria's.
I think we met in Vegas last year.
Yes.
Yeah.
Lots of Rick Partlow's there. Shadow the Illustrator, of course. And yeah, I mean, there's still 12 people watching to me ramble on who's watching. So, I mean, there we go.
Stephen needs to get in touch with us. Stephen, you should reach out.
That,
Victoria at podiumaudio.com. You should send me an email.
There you go. There you go, Papa Chuck. Reach out to Victoria. Do it. Do it. All right. If you haven't, you should really hit the little subscribe button. You should ding the little bell, do all the things so you know when we've got more shows going on, because we've got them every Monday, every Thursday, 9 p.m. Eastern for your viewing pleasure. And I always try to get them onto the audio side in the Podbean for all of our audio listeners as quickly as I can, as I wrangle my birds and my family and all the craziness going on. So with that, be sure to check us out next week, where we're going to talk about more reading, writing, and everything in between right here on Keystroke Mediums.